and we'll get started. Okay. Hello, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are. Welcome to the first Makeover Monday Viz Review for 2021. And I am very excited to have with me Michelle Freeman. Hi, Michelle. It's great, it's great. Of course, we'll miss your comments in the chat, but we'll have your comments over the microphone. So, yeah, if people in the chat, they should all see us now, could just do maybe a quick thumbs up. They can hear us okay. It looks fine on the controls, but I just want to double check. And Michelle, for those who might be new to Makeover Monday, do you want to briefly introduce yourself? Okay, so somebody said they can't hear you.
Oh no.
Okay, so I've just changed something and I saw like a little burst on the audio, whatever thing it's called. So hopefully that has fixed it.
Can you hear me now? Thumbs up, thumbs down?
Yeah, we need some thumbs up, but we also have about a 30-second delay, so we might just have to fill the time until people can confirm. But I see your line now also like jazzing on my screen. Maybe some.
Okay, so
now
that's probably a good sign.
So they can. Excellent. Cool. So maybe, sorry, a very quick introduction again, because I think they missed all of that.
Yeah, super quick introduction. I've been participating weekly in Makeover Monday for the last 2 years, and I'm really excited to be here. I love the community and the interaction with everyone, so thank you for inviting me.
Cool. Okay, that's great. So Michelle will join me for Viz Review throughout January, except for next week when we have a Viz 5 session where the Viz Review will always be with Seth from Operation Fistula. So yeah, let's get started. And I don't know how many people are new to Makeover Monday, or maybe have done Makeover Monday before, but they're new to Viz Review. So let me very briefly bring up a short description on the screen. I have posted these on Twitter, but I will put them all on the website as soon as I figure out how. Basically, this is how, so the way Makeover Monday works, oh, I need to get the mouse right. So you have, the 3 steps above are not important right now. It's just about submitting. But this is step number 4, and it's totally optional. No one has to do this review. No one has to join this. No one has to use a hashtag if they don't want to. But if you want feedback, this is how it works. And assuming that you're all listening, you probably have figured that out. But just to reiterate, there's one important point. Because we only have typically 60 to maybe 75 minutes each week, we choose visualizations ahead of time from the ones that you submit with that hashtag. And the way we choose them is not we choose the best, or we choose the ones that are maybe in need of a bit of help. We just pick a variety of visualizations. So today the list I have is, well, hopefully as many diverse charts as possible, different approaches, but also people who are doing it for the first time, because I want to give them a chance to experience this. So also, we try to stick to a consistent schedule, but because especially this year with guest hosts from the community, I need to accommodate their time as well. So it's not just my time of, I can always make Wednesday 5 p.m. for example, but maybe they can't because they're in a different time zone. So do make sure that you subscribe to the channel that you're watching this on. This is Andy's channel, because this is where we're doing it every week, and you can just see what's coming up. And we also have them on the Makeover Monday website on the data tab where you download the data. There will always be a link for that week's session, so you can find it that way. Now let's get into it. So this week, Andy, who is currently not online, he is picking all the data sets for this year, and I'm doing all the Viz Review and all the favorite stuff. And the data set he picked for week number 1 is actually one I suggested, funnily enough, The Great Bicycle Boom of 2020. And you saw the original, you hopefully downloaded the data without any problems, did some reading of the article and created your own makeovers. And then I have put together a bit of a collection, and we're going to start in chronological order. So from the beginning to the end, I did not include all of the visits. That's why, we have these collections. We're trying to get a variety. And we're going to start with Chantanil and his first post, and he's created this in Excel. And as I have now kind of unloaded all of this information, let's bring this up. And I'm curious, Michelle, what is your first impression, especially considering this is Excel, this is not Tableau or something else interactive?
I know. For starters, I didn't know Excel could do this.
Yeah, me too.
I'm very impressed by his Excel skills, and I would like to learn from that. But I really like the simplicity of the line chart and how he highlights the panic. The increase, the 2.8 increase with the ban. I find the colors a little too close to each other, and I think that it might be a little easier to read if the 2019 was actually sort of a full out color instead of the dash line and lighter.
Yeah.
There are a lot of interesting annotations, but I feel like there's a lot of ink on the page too that's sort of distracting me from some of the details.
Yeah, I agree. And because I'm trying to see where should I focus first, because I've got that, sorry, I've got too many keyboards and stuff going on here. So I have this shaded reference area, which draws my focus with the big number and that spike. But then I'm like, okay, there's an arrow going here, there's an arrow going at the top, an arrow at the bottom. So I agree. Like, I think the overall design is really sharp, especially given that this is Excel. Like, I would have no idea how to do that. But it's a little bit confusing because I just don't know what is the main message here. And what I'm wondering, and this might be like nitpicky. So he says the first month of COVID lockdown witnessed a huge increase in pedestrians and bike usage outdoors due to heightened anxiety over public transportation. I'm not sure if that was in the article because I read it a while ago. But this is about trails, so this will be out in national parks, and I don't think this would count as public transport. Like, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, and if you read something differently, Michelle, but I'm thinking these are trails, for example, in, like mountains and other areas where there is no cars, there is no public transport. So I don't think that's an argument you could include here, right?
Yeah, and I may be taking it personally because I know that for us, after COVID started and we were very restricted in our movements, we started walking every day on the trails near us. So I feel like it was probably more likely due to people being cooped up.
Yeah.
And I don't remember it being in the article, but
yeah, I think that's definitely something to keep in mind, just how to word that, because that it could well be. I mean, I'm sure that people did more walking and more cycling to work when they could, but also in my making this very broad generalization, in my experience of the US, most places are not actually suitable for bike or walk commutes. Like, you have to drive everywhere because it's far away. Like, cities are very spread. So I also agree with you, Michelle, that here, like, we went to a lot of parks to walk and to cycle, but that was to spend the time to go outside because the weather was nice and because we didn't have to spend the time on the commuting. So maybe something for Chantanil to keep in mind.
Yeah, we don't have very bike-friendly commuting cities, unfortunately. Too many cars, not enough bike lanes.
Yeah. One last point is to include the data source in your visualization somewhere so that, there's the reference to where you found the data. And the data source is not Makeover Monday, it's whatever we put in that data set. So you can always see that under data source. Very easy copy and paste. Okay, shall we move on to OJ Green?
Yes.
Okay, so Rebecca comments, there aren't trails in mountains. Many of them are urban trails because they are rails to trails. Okay, I didn't catch that. So I'm guessing it used to be railway lines maybe, and then they paved them to make them to be honest, I didn't research about that side of the story. I was more thinking like running trails and mountain bike trails, that kind of stuff. But you might
We actually have a number of them in Massachusetts, and they're old converted railway lines.
Oh.
Exactly that. Some of them are paved. Some of them I think are just dirt.
Well, that's very nice because they're typically quite flat, so it's not that exhausting.
They're really nice.
Yeah. So the first thing I notice here, so this is by Oscar Green, is it's really big. This viz. Did you notice the same?
Yes, it's huge on my screen.
Yeah.
It reminds me of all my initial ones when we were first reviewing, where my sizing was set to automatic, so it exploded on the screen.
Yeah.
That was one problem, and I remember I think the other thing was I often had my sizing set higher than either 1,000 or 1,200 pixels. That was something that you and Sarah had mentioned would make a big difference.
Yeah. So this viz, I like the design in general. I think it's it's neat. We've got a nice big heading. We've got a very captivating image, and then a bit of text, and I even like the shadow at the bottom. That's all fine, but the title doesn't translate into the viz. I don't see a bicycle boom of 2020. I see what to me like a circle would be something like 60 seconds or 12 hours. Like that's kind of what I'm thinking about with this pattern. And suddenly it's 1 to 50 with a big gap that I don't understand. I don't know why it goes counterclockwise. And I also don't see the boom. Like where's the boom? Because there is no explanation of what these actually are, what these lines are. The bar chart would have been easier to understand, I think. What do you think, Michelle?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a number of these types of charts and I totally get how the bicycle wheel is a great analogy. And I can see the boom in that, there's clearly one piece that's more orange, but I think that might have been a great opportunity, especially with all the white space, to add an annotation and say maybe a little description as to like why that was a boom, or that pointing out that is where the boom is. I do like the Viz and tooltips, and where you have the bar chart and you can see the difference between the two.
Yeah.
And I love the font. I'm such a sucker for a nice font.
Yeah. Well, and the bar chart, I mean, I understand the bar chart is clearer, but it's harder to turn into some sort of bicycle-ish, image. But then if this is about rails to trails, maybe the bar charts can be worked into some image of railway lines that are now trails. Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm not a designer, obviously, but I just struggle a bit with the circular thing because it's really hard to show a boom, especially when it's not annotated, because there's a text here, but there is no annotation for the actual chart. So it's really hard to tell by someone who doesn't know has never looked at the data and hasn't yet read the article what is about.
Yeah, the circular charts, I find it very hard to follow the pattern and the trends.
Yeah. Especially because, it doesn't all look that big, because the thing is the difference between the two, and this is now in, I think it's the counts, isn't it? Yeah. So maybe it would be, I don't know if this is the percentage. I think the percentage is the difference. So yeah, it's just a difficult way to show an actual boom. So maybe the easiest thing is just to change the title, but hopefully we've given Oscar a little bit to think about. Okay. Now, in the chat, Sarah Pellet asks, "What's the best as a standard? Do you have a standard size?"
So I always start with 1,000 wide by 800 long, and I think your recommendation was go, and correct me if I'm misremembering, max of 1,200, and better most cases to go long if you need more space than to go wide, because wide people have to scroll or it'll blow up.
Yeah, I agree with that. I typically, I start with the standard desktop size. So, well, this is talking about Tableau, so that's 1,000 by 800, and then I typically don't go beyond 1,200 wide, but yeah, going longer is typically okay because people are used to scrolling down. They're not used to scrolling sideways. Okay, so this viz, I I don't know who this is by because there's no naming. Natasha Stevenson. First suggestion is include your name on the viz so that everyone who looks at it knows who you are or who it's done by. Okay, 2020, the year of the bike. Now this is a dark background, and I know you're quite fond of dark backgrounds, Michelle. Is that right?
I do. I love the way they make everything pop, and I really like the simple colors here. Just the light green, it's not overpowering, and the way the white chart shows up. I really like the joy plots. I think the only thing I'm sort of challenged with here is sort of comparing the different, I guess I'm sort of having trouble seeing how they all add up together. And I'm not really sure why the bike is on the top one, although it is cute. But it's the total. It's not just the bikers.
Yeah. Well, and it's I'm trying to understand. I can't tell whether these axes are fixed. I think they are. I think they're all the same, but I'm not sure because I don't see any numbers. And like you, I'm a bit confused why I would compare all of them. Because if it was, for example, 6 different cities or 6 different states or something, I'd be like, yep, this is totally fine. But we're comparing different measures in different years against each other. So I'm like, okay, why not just do 2? You know, just the total or just the pedestrians or just the bikes? Because they're the things that are comparable. If I were to look at, okay, total count versus pedestrian count, like 2020 versus pedestrian count 2019, that's not very meaningful because you need to do a lot of analysis in between, I guess, to extract the meaning. So, yeah. And I agree with the bike at the top. The bike should probably only feature in the bike section.
Or again, you know, there's the white space. So if you wanted to make a statement about why it's the year of the bike and add some more context to that, maybe use that space.
Yeah. Okay. Now, on the topic of backgrounds, I'm a very big fan of white backgrounds, and I don't really have a particular reason why. Oh, here we go. But now that we have just introduced a new family member, our black Labrador puppy who's peacefully asleep, I've noticed, so she is black, she has black eyes and everything is black on her, and you don't see a lot of, you know, like you don't really see the features of this dog because everything is so dark. Whereas if you have, for example, a yellow lab or a brown lab, even the brown ones are different, like the chocolate ones, but the yellow labs, they have a really light coat, but then they have, you know, darker eyes, and you see the features so much more. Whereas black, it's like you don't see the lines because it's all just hidden away in the blackness. And I think that made me realize that, yeah, with Vizzes, it's much harder actually, I think, to work with a black background. You have to put much more thought into the colors because, like you say, they pop, but only if you choose the right ones. If you choose like dark gray on black, it's not going to pop anywhere.
No, that's a great point. Maybe that's one of the reasons that I like it, because I really enjoy using fun colors.
Yeah, like hot pink.
It is my favorite. But,
fine.
you know, this viz that you just pulled up is a great example, as you pointed out to me. And, you know, we've talked, I think, before about, are the colors meaningful? Sometimes we use them because we just like them personally, but I think that there were a lot of great opportunities with the supporting materials to choose colors that maybe were more representative of the underlying data, either from the Rails to Trails material, or I don't remember if the article had colors. And I find the 2 combinations here a little they don't work as well for me, I guess. And I think it's good, definitely use from maybe a little more breathing room for all the charts, like maybe not going, this is something that Agata taught me or reminds me constantly, make sure that there is more space between all of your elements.
Yeah. And I have to agree, like, I think brown and purple, they're just, I mean, it's a little bit, it reminds me of 70s wallpaper, when like brown and purple just never go together in anything that I have come across, except for in the 70s, when, while I wasn't alive, I have seen pictures or, you know, movies and stuff. So I think yeah, this plus, I mean, brown would be okay for trails, I think, but purple just doesn't make me think of anything outdoorsy. So, yeah, I would have a think about what colors work with the topic, and you don't have to use stereotypical color, but I think outdoors, or if you say the ocean, like there's obvious colors. You wouldn't make an ocean topic, for example, you wouldn't make it green or pink because, oh sorry, yeah, green or pink. You would make it probably blue or silvery or whatever. So I agree with you there. Now, in this viz, so we've got the great bicycle boom, and did COVID have any impact on trail counts? Yes, I think by the looks of it. There's a clear bike boom and pedestrian counts are up as well. So I don't know, how do you feel about having 3 charts? Do you think one would be enough to tell the story? Or, yeah.
I sort of feel like the first chart and the second one look very similar. So I'm wondering if maybe you could just slim it down to the 2 on the right and change the orientation. I'm not sure all 3 are adding value.
Yeah, Jonathan just mentioned in the chat that he would have swapped the bike boom one, made that the big one, or maybe even the only one, because that's the title of the whole viz. It's not. I mean, it says the great bicycle boom, largely due to bicycle, blah blah. So why include the pedestrian one, right? So
I agree.
I think that's a valid point. Okay, so well done, Dana, and great to have you join us.
And I can't tell whether the tooltips are the default, but it is a nice touch to update them and maybe make them into a sentence or just reformat them in a way that makes it a little easier, more readable.
Yeah, definitely always a good idea. Now, the next one is from JJ Ice, her first ever Makeover Monday submission. So great to have you here. And JJ, I wonder if you've joined us live. I can't tell because I can't actually see all the people. I only see the people who are commenting. So, yep, let's bring this into full screen. So, okay, what do we have here? So this one I found really interesting because it's a comet chart that also is a line chart and has these giant bubbles, which I hadn't seen before. And yeah, so I thought, yeah, we should definitely look at it. So I like that she's brought the seasons into it because I think the seasons explain a lot anyway. It's going to go up to be outdoors in spring and summer. But I think the pandemic actually is the bit that's the difference between the two, well, what is supposed to be lines. And I'm not sure if that's coming out very clearly here. What do you think?
I really like the season icons. I think I might like them maybe more used at the top as sort of column headers. And I've sort of gone back and forth. I really like the thick line and showing, but I've been going back and forth between whether sort of the slightly lighter line color is distracting with the dots.
Yeah, I don't know. So I guess the challenge I have is we have these circles, and basically the difference between 2019 and 2020, and you're not told this, you have to figure this out on your own, is the top of that fat line and the bottom of the fat line. So, or the top of the circle and the bottom of the circle, right? That's at least how I'm reading it. And then the percentage shows you what the percent increase was. So I don't really see this being very clear because also it doesn't say, or what, like, maybe not. Maybe this is just a percentage change. But then why are these things connected? Like, why could it not just be a normal straight up line? I find the size of the circles in these, like, it almost looks like I don't know what you call it, the stuff that, a flashlight, like, I don't know what you call that bit of light that a flashlight creates. But anyway, that's shape. Oh, are you still there?
Yeah, no, I agree.
Okay, so
Whoop, I am so.
Yeah, okay, good.
No, I think my internet went long. No, I agree.
So, yeah, and then
I
it
like the
also,
color. It's very bright.
I love the colors. And
Sunshine, being outside.
I love the colors
It's
too.
very clean looking.
Yeah, and it's just friendly and inviting. It makes me want to look at it and want to explore it. I'd also make it a bit smaller because it's just filling up the entire screen and it doesn't need to be that big.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. We have another yellow one by Vinay, I think. Okay, he's got a very strong
Yellow is very
hashtag
popular.
game. Okay, Vinay Kumar. Now, in this one, so the reason why I included this one is because there's one thing I can't figure out, and that is why we have this slope.
Shoot, I was hoping you were going to answer that for me. I'm not sure either.
Because,
And I don't know if it's sort of the bicycle going downhill, sort of for the artistic effect.
so we have in week 16, I'm just hovering, week 16 in 2019 is 133,000, and then week 17 is 231,000. So, and
Yeah, I'm not really sure. Um, would help us understand this a little better.
yeah,
And the labels could be rotated and probably abbreviated. And I made that mistake as well.
yeah.
I don't think we need to spell out week for all of them.
No, I think especially if you say, these are the weeks of the year, if you include every, I don't know, every second, every fourth, every fifth, whatever you choose to do, that will be just fine. Probably in blocks of 4, because I think with years that seems logical and it divides neatly, 52 divided by 4. But yeah, so I'm just a bit confused by the slope, and I think it needs to be explained. Plus, there is, like you said, there's no context. So if someone looks at this and doesn't know anything about the data, they will not understand this viz. And the idea is to make it easier to understand. Okay.
Well, I'm not even sure here. So we're measuring the counters, but it's not clear what that means.
So I think this is how many people used it, and this is data provided by 31 different people who are called counters. That's how I understood the data.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm not sure
Okay.
that's adding
No,
value.
I think that label could be, it could literally just be 2019 and 2020. You don't need counts and counters, but then a bit of a description would be good. And I think the massive cycling icon is using a lot of space that is not necessary.
Yes, it could be smaller.
Yeah.
And again, that's space that could be used for a little more context.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe not going all the way to the ends, adding some padding.
Yeah. Okay. Now, next up we have Nikhil. Oh. Hang on. My mouse just went completely wonky. Okay, let's go back. Let's see. Lines. 31 counters are locations or trails. Okay, so I kind of hoped that they would have some sort of automatic system of sensors rather than people literally standing there all day counting the people. So I hope that's what it is. Electronic counters, yes. Yeah, okay. See, some people did a lot more reading than me. I just kind of looked.
I really like the step line. Maybe just have one at the beginning to indicate which is which. I don't know that we need all of them. And
I agree on the icons, but I also have to say
with all the annotation.
Oh, I think we have a delay. I was gonna say that I don't mind the icons because they're not taking up space. They're just kind of dotted throughout. But I agree that they would probably be okay if it's just 1 or 2.
And I think the annotations are great to have, but they're really close to the lines. I think maybe a little editing and sort of bringing them in or separating them a little bit from the lines.
I think they're also a bit long, so it looks like the font is complete, like it's all bold, so they're quite blocky, and I think annotations should be a bit more light and not overwhelming. Like if I feel like I have to read an entire paragraph for each data point, it's a bit much. But if you can reduce, like, just the annotation to maybe just a single sentence that's short and concise and just, a really interesting data point rather than a big story. For example, and it looks like it's all copied and pasted, which is a big no-no and is something that I don't think anyone should do to keep it light here. But also, why are we talking about Paris and London? It doesn't matter. This is about the US. Like, it shouldn't just be copy and paste from the article in for the sake of having something in there. Because I thought that, these are not actually related to the point in time. Like, this is a bit of storytelling, but it's not really that the Meanwhile Bicycle Retailer is related to week 22, which it looks like because it is of where it is.
And you really have to dig into the annotations to get an understanding of what the chart is trying to show. So maybe having sort of something underneath the title just to bring the theme together, like what is it that your chart is saying?
Yeah.
I feel like I have to work very hard to figure it out.
And also, where's the 0? Because I'm guessing it's where the labels are for March, July, and October. But it's very minimalist, and I think this is, it's maybe a bit more infographic, but then, yeah, I just don't see how the text is connected to the actual timeline.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so let's move on to, well, I wonder if we skip Rebecca, because we've already done pretty much the same thing, well, slightly different, but a bicycle, a radial chart. Madeleine, okay, we'll do Madeleine quickly because we've done a very similar viz already with the reference line, but it is her first Makeover Monday contribution, so I do want to say hello and welcome, and great to have you not just join Makeover Monday but also Viz Review. What do you think of this one with grid lines and everything?
So I feel like the grid lines, if we were to have them, maybe could be a little bit fainter. Again, a lot of ink on the page. I like the overall design. Really like the fonts that she used, and again, the color choices don't necessarily match, but I think they work here. I think, yeah, either removing the grid lines or lightening them up. Not sure they're needed. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with the colors don't really match Bicycle Boom, but I think because it's not trying, like, it feels a bit more businessy, a bit more financial, so I probably don't mind because of that. We're not having icons, we're not telling a big story about the outdoors, so I think I don't mind in this case, but just something probably to keep in mind. Okay, now, hang on, I need to click out of this. So I don't know if she's included a link as well, but it helped, like, it's important that people always include a picture, because if there's no picture, then people, like, I won't consider it for favorites just because it's, a lot of extra work for me to create a picture, download it, upload it, etc. So always include a picture, but also make sure to include a link if you have an interactive version. So, this one is interesting. We have a butterfly chart from Severio. Alright, sorry, I just had Adobe sending me some weird notifications. So, the Bicycle Boom. What do you think of using a butterfly chart for this dataset?
So, the biggest challenge I have with that is it makes it really hard for me to compare anything. And I don't know why the blue feels like it's bigger than the green, which is surprising to me.
Yeah,
Oh, the axes
the
aren't.
axes are not fixed.
Okay, so that's a challenge. I think it would be better if the axes were fixed,
Yeah.
but I think I'd like it better if I could directly compare them. And not, my eyes are too old to find those.
I I find, I mean, they always look interesting, but they're impossible to compare because you can't compare the top here to the bottom there, like which one is longer and stuff. Like, if they both face the same direction and you just have a line chart or even an area chart, it's going to be much easier. I think in general, I like the cleanness of it. I like the big numbers. Yeah, do make sure to fix your axes. And yeah, I think otherwise there isn't really. I'm rotating the labels, but otherwise there isn't really much to say.
Yeah, I'm not sure the background color. It's dark, but it's I think I'd either pick one direction, like either make it lighter. I just feel like there isn't enough contrast. Sorry, where I'm going.
Yeah, that's good. Okay. Now, there was a question as to where the original viz was, and I do want to point out that Andy has included a note. Chart included in the data source. And if you, I think it was on the Make Monday, data page. It says chart and spreadsheet, so please do read the instructions and that will clarify things for you. Next up we have Rohan Bawa. I just need to quickly check on the puppy because I don't hear anything, and that's never a good sign. I'm going to let you start with a couple of sentences. I'll be back in half a minute.
All right. So the line chart certainly makes it very clear and easy to see what the difference is. I really like, the tooltips explaining what's happening. I don't think that the lockdown had to do with people traveling on trails versus rails. Unfortunately, rails to trails, as we mentioned earlier, is the conversion of old unused rail lines to bike trails or walking trails. I don't think that was in the article, but I think that might have been in the supporting material. Um, oh, interesting. I like the flip back and forth, comparing. Although the one thing I will say is by having them on by having to select the button to flop back and forth, it's harder to see the comparison.
Yeah, I agree. I'm back. She's in her crate. She's all good. She's a good girl. Oh, and now she's come out and she's sleeping. Okay. To everyone, excuse the interruptions. She's only been here it's her third day and it's been quite the journey. So just to make sure there's no catastrophes. But yeah, thanks for starting on this one.
Of course. I think the other thing I'd add would be I'm not sure adding the color differentiation is really adding any value. So maybe just keeping the line one darker color would probably make it cleaner.
Yeah,
Right?
I agree. Yes, yeah. I'm just turning around, but she's just settled down. She's sleeping like a superstar. Day one, I actually thought that, this is a lie. They don't sleep 18 hours a day, but today she's convincing me that she's quite capable and at night. So I'm hopeful. So shall we jump over to Quentin's viz?
Yes.
And he called it, now I hadn't heard this before, a line bell? Take on the ubiquitous dumbbell for this one. Yes, that's one thing I noticed. I think Andy did his viz on the Sunday, and literally every second one at least was very similar, just a dumbbell chart. So that's also why I didn't pick many for this review, because they were just, like most of the visits this week were that way. Now, have you heard line bell before?
I have not. I like it. I think it looks interesting. It's sort of a play on the shaded between the lines, I
Yeah.
suppose. A compromise, I suppose. So you're not filling in everything, but showing the difference between the peaks.
Yeah, definitely. Especially, and I like that the line helps you see what you're looking at. But there is not a line for every month, is there?
No, and I don't know what the lines are representing because
Or maybe there is.
not included in the tooltips.
Because I think maybe there is. Actually, there is a line, but it doesn't, because they're so far away from the labels, from the headers for January to December. It's really hard to tell. So I would maybe even label some of the peaks. Maybe the March and the May and what is this one, August, because there is no, well, included at least in the tooltip. Yeah, like you say, and that would be really helpful. Okay, what do you think of the colors in the background?
I don't think the pink goes all that well with the blue. And I think I like the picture. I think it could be much softer, lighter,
Yeah.
so that it really faded into the background a little bit more. I really like the band at the bottom, but I wonder if that might not make a more of an impact at the top. It's I feel like it's very easy to lose it if you don't scroll down.
Yeah, I also wonder, is that a valid measure? Because can you compare outdoor usage across the year? Because, I think I'd be more interested in those really huge differences. For example, in March and then August, because that's when people are typically outdoors anyway. In winter, I wouldn't expect a big difference. So can you compare given seasonality? Could you do an average across the year? I'm not sure. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I think the annotations, while I like having them, I don't know that having them shaded. I think I might take off the shading on
Mm-hmm.
there so that they just blend in because they're sort of overlapping with things.
Yeah. Okay.
I do like the little icons to flip back and forth between walk-in.
Oh, I didn't even see that. So that would maybe be helpful too. And also the icon could be a different color because black doesn't really suit, because nothing else is black in the whole biz. Yeah.
Yeah, good point.
Okay. Oops. Now, next one I have Priyanka, and she's also created a radar chart. What I like here is, and I'm typically not a huge fan of radar charts, but this one actually shows you both years in different colors so that you can see that there's a difference, which in the first version that we had wasn't all that obvious because it was just a thick line that kind of went thicker and thinner. But here you see, okay, 2019, it's basically grown all around. So I think that's kind of saves this viz. I'm still not convinced on radial visits because I find them very hard to comprehend.
I do, and it's funny. This one is very small, and I'm having trouble reading everything.
Yeah, I zoomed in big time, but then the viz gets blurry, unfortunately.
Yeah, and there aren't. Oh no, there are tooltips. They took a minute to write. But there isn't a whole lot of context in them to sort of help me understand.
For me, it's just, oh yeah, okay, so on the 2019, it's just the year and the week number, which is obvious because it's all labeled. But then for 2020, okay, so one must be for the area and one must be for the point. Somewhere it says the bikes. But wouldn't it be interesting to also have the difference between the 2 years? Because that's the bit that is not always so obvious, right?
Yes, no, absolutely.
Okay.
All right.
Let's move on to the next one. That is by Mehdi. I think he's online, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, let's see. So, let me see. Oh, there is an actual link.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
This one is in Data Studio.
Yes, we haven't a Data Studio in a while, so yeah.
Awesome.
They always have super sharp tooltips. Oh my god, they're super responsive. I love that. First impression, I think this is a really cool viz.
Yeah, it's really clean looking. nice light use of the icons, but
Mm-hmm.
oh,
Oh, and you can use
there's a
the
little
icons to filter, right? Yep, yep.
yes. Oh, funky. Yeah, if you move it along the line, it changes what you're looking at.
That is really clever. I like that a lot. You know what I would do is there is, I mean, I think the title and all of that, the text at the top is probably enough for people to understand. But there's that white space on the right side, and maybe there would be a space for just a couple of paragraphs more information about the Rails to Trails article, or what they've observed.
Yeah, I agree. And it looks trying to tell whether the stack marks are on or off. So I'm just
Hmm.
wasn't sure whether the bar was combining the two.
Oh, good question. So, okay. So when I hover over 20
They
for
must be
August,
off.
17. That's the week beginning. Okay, so 2020 is. Oh, it's so the blue one is additional trail users. So, the basically the
Mm,
top of each bar is the total, and it compares it to 2019 by adding the dark blue, which is the extra in 2020, which I think is clever. I like that.
mm. Yes.
And I think
Yeah, no, agree.
the audience
And
agrees as well. They like it as
the
well.
nice. Well, and the other thing, it's subtle. It took me a minute to notice it, but the yellow highlighting, um, it's highlighted in the text up top, and then it's highlighting the COVID period when lockdown happened.
Yeah, yeah, it's really really neat. I really like this. Very well done, Medi. I hope we'll see more of your visits in Makeover Monday. Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
Inspiring me to try another tool.
yeah. When to find the time? Next we have Thomas Nielsen, and he's created his viz in Tableau. And let's check it out. So he's opted for the line chart, and he's created 4 different ones. One being cars, bikes, pedestrians, and the total. Cars seem to make the cars? Really? Well, you know what I think that is? Okay, this is my guess. I haven't researched it. It's probably all these people going to the trails to then walk. Could that be? Because it's not like they start outside their houses, right? If you're walking in a national park or on these trails, you probably have to drive there first. I wonder.
Right.
But
But
oh, so in
I
May,
didn't
huh?
I didn't remember there being car data, but I may not
I
have
don't
been.
either.
He may have gone and found additional data.
There were a bunch of different tabs. I only used one, but there were different tabs, so maybe that was in there as well.
Yeah, I did as well.
Um,
So I find it a little hard to see what each of these is about, and I feel like everything is very crowded. Could probably
yeah, it's quite busy.
edit down the text a lot and really focus in on what information you wanted to convey and take off some grid lines, maybe make your headers a little clearer without, I don't know, as we mentioned earlier, I don't think the counters are needed
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and probably don't need like the week of week.
Yeah, it could just be, so at the top it could just be total and then cars, if they're cars, bikes, pedestrians. And then what do you think of the color using red and grey? Does it feel a bit financial kind of to me, to you?
Yeah, so I mean, I like the contrast. I don't know that there's any great link to the data.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Okay, but I mean, I think so. There's a lot of text provided, which I think is quite informative, but it's not super engaging from my view. Like this is like Michelle said, it's quite busy. There's a lot going on. I don't feel like I have to make quite a bit of effort to go through the viz in a way that I'm like, okay, I've read this, now I'm looking at this. Like it's all there at once, and I'm feeling a bit like, whew, this is a lot.
Yeah, and I'm really having a hard time seeing the link between the points that are being made. I think because they're all on separate charts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, that's true. And
So,
also with the arrows kind of going around, and it's like, oh, okay, so yeah, so maybe just something for Thomas to have a think about how he would address the comments we've made. Okay, now the next one is created in Plotly and Dash. Let's see if I click on this link, if that is, because sometimes people do stuff in R, and then I get all the code. Ah, here we are. Who owns the trails? By William Mass. Okay, so he's got a bit of information as a background for his story. Walkers outnumber bikes. 2019, 2020 bikers are catching up. Okay, so 2019, 2020. Oh, this is really cool how he's done the ratio and you see like left and right.
mhm. Yeah, no, it's very nice.
I I like it because it's different and also it gives me a different. Oh my god, Will is going crazy in the chat. Click on the button. Where's the button? Where is the button? Which button? Double click on legend to isolate one trace. Double click on the legend. I'm double clicking.
Trying to double click too.
Okay. Oops.
So I think that was sort of my overall comment. Like I again feel like I'm working very hard to figure out what's going on. That
Yeah.
could just be me.
So what I like is that, okay, if the dot is on the right side, there are more bikers than walkers. If the dot is on the left, there's more walkers than bikers. But I thought, so I like that. I'm now guessing I'm still thinking about, well, aren't we comparing 2019 to 2020? But he's picked a different story, so that's fine. Okay, so he says the boxes on the right are buttons. I didn't see them as buttons. They are too large for me to, and maybe there's too much text in them to be buttons for me. Okay, but what does it do?
So, I mean, an easy way to solve that it would be just put a little note on top of them, select a button to, or select a box to change your display. Although I don't know that it's actually doing it for me.
Well, it is doing something, but it's not obvious for me. So if I click on 2020, something happens, but the outline of the circles is so fat. Like I don't. It's all very busy because those circles are very close together anyway. I I wonder if this was turned 90 degrees so that, because at the moment you're going from January down to December rather than going left to right, which I think is the logical order.
Mhm.
And that way the outnumbering would be whatever the button is, or sorry, the circle on top is like, yeah. Um, I find this hard, and I know now why. Is because we have the weeks, we also have the years, they're the color, but then whether on the left or the right, that determines whether there's more walkers than bikers. And that just makes it difficult for my brain to compute everything at once. Plus, the visually obvious thing is the difference between 2019 and 2020. So if we look at week 22, for example, in 2019, the blue circle, I mean, I don't even know, but it looks like there's a big difference between the blue and the red circle. So that is the difference I want to have explained more so than where the things are. So it might just need a bit of reworking to make it more obvious what you're trying to say, because I'm struggling.
Yeah, and while the ratio is a really interesting concept, you sort of have to do the math in your head as opposed to seeing the two comparisons in the visualization directly. Then you can say, I can see that there are more walkers than bikers.
And
maybe that's just me.
And maybe it could, what could help is maybe move the buttons down a bit and on the top right have how to read this chart and just have a snapshot that has all the labels, because that way you can warm people up.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. But I do like that it's a different perspective on things, and where he's taken this. Okay.
Absolutely.
We'll
and a different tool.
Oh, definitely. Yes, we welcome everybody. Now let's skip over the next one because we've done the line charts. I'm just trying to see if there's any other ones. I kind of want to quickly jump at Mehul Modi's viz because of the colors. Because we talked about black backgrounds, and this one I noticed I just struggled a bit because if you look at it in large, you get 2020 versus 2019, but as you can see, 2019 is grey, and grey on black, I think it's black or it's like a super dark green. My eyes are really hurting looking at this because it's fluorescent, and then there's really little contrast between the yellow and the grey. Everything is just too yellow for me. I think what would make it easier is if the yellow was changed to white, because white and black is the biggest contrast you can achieve with color.
Agreed. And I don't know that the whole block of post-19 or COVID-19 lockdown is adding any value.
Yeah.
That's making the contrast harder.
It's making it harder. Yes. Yeah. I think a single line or even an arrow that says, this is when lockdown started would help us to identify, okay, that's why there's suddenly this spike. But the whole shading, I would rethink the colors. I think overall the viz is great, but the colors don't work for me.
I would rotate the labels on the bottom and maybe abbreviate them a little more so you could rotate them. And these are buttons, which I think look great and work really well to change your view. It's not obvious that they're buttons.
Yes, and so again, 14 counters, no one cares, quite frankly. And what I would suggest here, so you've got the total at the very peak is 420,000. So fix your X's on that for the others as well, because when I have the total, I'm like, 420,000 in week 15. Now I hit pedestrians, I'm like, oh my god, so many. No, it's actually now 180 is the max. So fix your X's so that it then goes from the total, and the next one should kind of jump down, so you see the two components that make up the total. Okay, I think we have time for one more, and then I need to coordinate Henry and Puppy and all of those things. So I think there was Angelos. He did a running total, which I thought was interesting. Okay, and Andy has joined us.
Oh, excellent.
Yes.
From the airport?
From the airport, yeah. I had to reject his call earlier because I'm like, no, I'm doing this review, so it's good that he joined us. Okay, so this one I'm going to just leave at 100% and just kind of scroll down. So this one I noticed because I'm like, it looks different than everyone else's. COVID-19 pandemic pushed Americans outdoors. Okay, so I really like the design. I think it's really clean. It's minimalist, but there's still, there are some labels to give me a reference point for the top, like the line chart, to show me, okay, 6.6 million, 10 million, I have a reference point for what this vertical axis is. I know the weeks, and then what fueled that increase in trail usage. So you have bike and pedestrian, and I think this is really well done, and I like it. And I'm curious to see what you think of the running total approach.
I like it because I think it makes it very easy to see that distinction. I'm confused why it ends at week 46.
Good question. I ended... there was... I think... Well, there definitely wasn't data for week 52 and 51 and 52, but I'm not sure why it ended.
Yeah, the bar charts below end at 44.
They go to 46, but the label doesn't go. I think that's the sizing. So maybe that's something for Angelos to have a look at. I mean, I encourage people to only use... So in 2019 they had 52 weeks, in 2020 they had 50 weeks, because this was probably published before Christmas. But maybe then just, cut off the weeks that don't exists in both data sets, but it was definitely more than 46 weeks. Oh, Laura says it ends at 46 for pedestrian and bikes. The total ended at 50. Okay, yeah, I only used the total. Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe that could be a short note somewhere, because I think for 2020 we understand, it might not have finished counting when they published the data, but for 2019 there would be questions.
Yeah, but no, I like that because I think it makes it very easy to see how much it's growing.
Yeah. Okay. Now, I do want to do one more because Matt specifically submitted his viz and he did want feedback from Andy Kriegel. So Andy, if you are still watching, maybe you have a couple of comments you can post in the chat, or maybe you can respond in the tweet. I don't know if he has. He has not. So Matt Francis.
I think he's got a great story going.
Yeah. Well, the Great Bike Boom of 2020 clearly shows that the combined daily average for areas near Washington are far larger than areas near Philadelphia, showing that just like in the NFL, Washington wins. Is that some sort of inside joke that I'm not getting? Do we just have more
maybe
counters in DC than in Pennsylvania?
More counters or more rails to trails, perhaps? I mean, the weather is nicer. I don't know.
Andy says his viz is horrible. Now, I mean, for everyone else, I do want to clarify this. So Matt is a really cool dude. He is a former Zen master and a very, very capable Tableau person, server and desktop. And he clearly created this as a bit of a, trolling Andy. So
trying to do all of the wrong things.
Yeah, but you know what? It's actually a great it's a great way for us to say, okay, don't do these things. So one thing is, the formatting of the font. Title should be nice and concise, ideally, or maybe something really intriguing or something explanatory, but it should be obviously a title, and then maybe the rest should be packaged as a bit of context below in the subtitle. Counters group copy is a terrible label for your color legend. So, it's basically a viz where he deliberately didn't tidy things up. So this is a good example to learn from. Always make it very clear. And maybe I will use that as a segue to, this was all good, to the thing I just closed before, but let me go to my own profile in my tweets, because I posted a viz checklist. So if you look at my tweets, this is going to go on the website when Andy gets back. So there's a viz checklist, and it's by no means comprehensive, but it is some of the most common things that we see people maybe forget or stumble over. And so you can use that image. We're going to make it available as a PDF as well for people to download, print if they want, and just go through, some of those basic things that are important to get right. Now, we don't give you grades, we don't pay you. It doesn't make a difference to us whether you do or not, but this is just good for learning and for going through to make sure that your portfolio gets better with every week. So this is available for everyone who.
And I have to say, one of the things that helped me the most was going and taking the feedback, either if I was able to get it personally or feedback from all of the other vizzes done during Viz Review, and incorporating that and iterating on it. And I left all of my iterations out there so that people can see the changes that I made and see how much I've changed over time. I think Andy's talked about that also, about how you can show your growth over time and show what you've learned by leaving things out there.
Absolutely.
Oh, Maggie's fighting.
Okay, Maggie is here. She has just woken up, and I'm going to bring us back on the screen. Oh, Maggie, you need to get on the desk because people can't see you. You're too little. There she is.
So sweet.
Oh, she's really nervous. It's her first Viz review. Yeah, little puppy. Oh, and she gets hiccups because she runs too fast, and she yeah, you get hiccups. Yeah. Oh. Okay, she's attacking my headphones now. I think it's time to switch off because I need to make sure that she doesn't destroy the house. but I thought it would be nice to briefly show her. And
She's adorable.
She is very, very sweet. Okay. Oh, the others are liking it as well. Okay, so thank you, Michelle, for joining me. It's always good to do it together because I think it's better for people to get a couple of different opinions and not just mine. And it's also very hard to talk for an hour straight. So I appreciate your help. And
yes, thank you so much for inviting me. I really enjoyed being here.
Good. No, it's been really fun, and hopefully, so once this is all recorded and processed, I'll share the link, and maybe people can give us a bit of feedback, what they thought, and if they participated. And oh, she is so cute.
I would love feedback.
Yes.
I'm very open to feedback.
Good. So yeah, people let us know, and there will be the next session next week, and
Nice.
Andy is complaining that I'm using his desk. Yes, and we will be back. And sorry, I'm slightly distracted.
Safe travels, Andy.
Yeah, safe travels, Andy. See you soon. And Michelle, thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day. And yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in. Bye.
Yeah, bye.